Sorry for the suspense, beta. Come, child, come, called his parents as he lagged behind, fascinated by the toys in the shops that lined the way. They are on the way, and the child sees that the toys are lined in the shops. He is attracted by the shops and gets busy in seeing them and lags behind. It means he is left behind and the parents walk forward. But whenever he lags behind, his parents scold him to come along with them. He hurried towards his parents, his feet obedient to their call, his eyes still lingering on the receding toys. As he came to where they had stopped to wait for him, he could not suppress the desire of his heart, even though he well knew the cold, stare refusal of their eyes. It means whenever they call him to come forward, he becomes obedient and comes running to his parents. But his eyes were still on the toys that were lined and on the way, and he comes to them, and the parents wait for him because they had come forward and he had lagged behind. They stop for him. He comes to them running, but he cannot suppress the desire of his heart, even though he well knows that his parents will not accept his demand for any toy and they will refuse him. But still, he cannot suppress the desire and he asks for it. I want that toy, he pleaded. He pleaded means requested. He requested his parents that I want that toy. His father looked at him, red eyed, in his similar tyrant's way. His mother, melted by the free spirit of the day, was tender and giving him her finger to hold, said, look, child, what is before you? Whenever he asked for some toy from his father looked at him angrily. Looked red eyed means looked at him angrily and plainly refused. But his mother melted, but still she could not do anything, and to call the child, she says, come, child, come, look forward, what is there before you? It was a flowering mustard field, pale like melting gold as it swept across miles and miles of even land. Now they are passing through a mustard field. It means they have not yet reached the fair. They are on the way. On the way, he looks at the shops lined there where the toys are lined, and he asks for that. But still, they are moving towards the fair, and they are on the way. And on the way, it is a mustard field. So they are walking towards the fair through the field. A group of dragonflies were bursting about on their gaudy purple wings, intercepting the flight of long black bee or butterfly in search of sweetness from the flowers. The child followed them in the air with gaze till one of them would still its wings and rest, and he would try to catch it, but it would go fluttering, flapping up into the air. When he had almost caught it in his hands, then his mother gave a cautionary call, come, child, come on to the footpath. Now, when they are moving towards the fair by a field of mustard, there are yellow flowers on the mustard field. So there are dragonflies, butterflies, they are flying over the flowers, and the child gets attracted towards them and wants to catch them. Sometimes he is able to catch them, sometimes they fly away and he is not able. Sometimes it comes into his hands, but then it flies away, and the child gets busy in doing these things. The parents wait for the child, and again the mother calls him, come on the footpath. He ran towards the parents gaily and walked abreast of them for a while, being, however, soon left behind, attracted by the little insects and worms along the footpath that were teeming out from their hiding places to enjoy the sunshine. He comes with the parents and even gets forward of them, gets ahead of them. But after a little while, he again leaves behind, because this time he is attracted to see the insects that are there on the footpath, because they are going on foot. So he sees that the worms are there, insects are there, and these insects are trying to find some hiding place, and they are coming out of their hiding place and they want to enjoy the sunshine. The child gets attracted to see these things, and even then again also he stays behind. Come, child, come, his parents called from the shade of a grove where they had seated themselves on the edge of a well. He ran towards them. Again, the child is busy seeing the insects and worms, and the parents, because of getting tired, they sit on the well, they sit on the in the shade of a grove and on the edge of a well. Sitting there, they once again call the child to come with them. A shower of young flowers fell upon the child as he entered the grove, and forgetting his parents, he began to gather the raining petals in his hand. But lo, he heard the cooing of doves and raining petals and dropped from the forgotten hands. Now, what happens? As the parents call him, they are sitting in the under the grove. Grove means a group of trees. So the child comes running towards them. But as he comes, a large number of flowers fell upon him just as rain, and he gets very happy and start collecting the petals of flowers. But as he is collecting, he hears the cooing of doves and he gets afraid. So he forgets about the flower petals, throws them away, and comes running to his parents. Come, child, come, they called to the child, who had now gone running in wild capers towards the banyan tree, and gathering him up, they looked the narrow, winding footpath which led to the fair through the mustard field. Again, they call him, and he had again left behind around the banyan tree because they are still on the way, but now they are on the narrow path that will lead them to the fair through the mustard field. As they neared the village, the child could see many other footpaths full of throngs converging to the whirlpool of the fair, and felt at once repelled and fascinated by the confusion of the world he was entering. Now they are just on the entrance of the fair, and the child sees a large number of footpaths. There were many footpaths, and from all the ways the people were coming through the ways, and they were coming towards the fair. So he gets very surprised to see such a large number of crowd coming towards the fair. A sweetman seller hawked gulab jamun, rasgulla, barfi, jalebi at the corner of the entrance, and a crowd possessed round his counter at the foot of the architecture of many colored sweets, decorated with leaves of silver and gold. The child stared upon open-eyed, and his mouth watered for the barfi that was his favorite sweet. I want that barfi, he slowly murmured. But he half knew, as he begged, that his plea would not be heeded because his parents would say that he was greedy. So without waiting for an answer, he moved on. Yes, as they reach the entrance of the fair, there is a shop of sweets, and the shopkeeper is giving voices. He is hawking for gulab jamun, rasgulla, barfi, jalebi, etc. And the child gets very surprised. He looks surprisingly to the architecture of many colored sweets. It means the sweets were very colorful, and they were made very architecturally. So he wants to have barfi because barfi was his favorite sweet. So although he knew the answer of his parents, but still he asked them that he wanted the barfi. But he says very slowly because he knew that his parents will not accept his request, and they will say that he was greedy. Still, he asked them, but when they do not answer, without waiting for their answer, he moves on. Next, a flower seller hawked a garland of gulmohar, a garland of gulmohar. The child seemed irresistibly drawn. He went towards the basket where the flowers lay heaped, and half murmured, I want that garland. But he well knew that his parents would refuse to buy him those flowers because they would say that they were cheap. So without waiting for an answer, he moved on. Next, after moving forward from the sweet shop, there is a shop of flower seller. A flower seller is hawking. He is giving voices to sell his garland, and he has the garland of Gulmore. A garland of Gulmore. The child again wants to have the garland, but again he knows the answer. He looks in the basket of the garland seller, and he sees there that there is a heap of flowers, and he asks his parents that I want that garland. But he knows that the answer that they will say that the flowers are cheap. So he only says for the garland, he only asks for the garland, and without waiting for the answer, he moves forward. A man stood holding a pole with yellow grid and purple balloons flying from it. The child was simply carried away by the rainbow glory of their silken colors, and he was filled with an overwhelming desire to possess them all. But he well knew his parents would never buy him the balloons because they would say he was too old to play with such toys, so he walked on further. Now, first he sees the sweet shop, second he sees the flower seller, and then he sees the balloons. There is a man standing holding a pole with colorful balloons on it. And the child is so carried away, he is so attracted to see the balloons that he wants to have all of these. But he knows that his parents will not even buy him one balloon. So he also knows the answer that they will say that he was not too old, that he was too old to play with such toys कि वो बड़ा हो गया है. So he walked on further and did not wait for the answer. A snake charmer stood playing a flute to a snake which coiled itself in a basket. Its head raised in a graceful bend like the neck of a swan, while the music stole into the invisible ears like the gentle rippling of the invisible waterfall. The child went towards the snake charmer, but knowing his parents had forgotten him to hear such a coarse music as the snake charmer played, he proceeded further. Now, as they move forward, he sees a snake charmer. He is playing a flute, and the snake is dancing on the flute as if he is hearing the music. The child wants to see the music. He wants to hear the music of the snake charmer, but he knows the parents answer that they will refuse, and they will say that the music is coarse, it is not good for him. There was a roundabout in full swing. Men, women, and children carried away in whirling motion shrieked and cried with dizzy laughter. The child watched them intently, and then he made a bold request. I want to go on the roundabout, please, father, mother. He has left so many things. First he left toys, then he left the sweets, then he flowers or garland, then he wanted to have the balloon, then he wanted to hear the music of snake charmer, but all these things were refused by the parents. Sometimes he made a request and sometimes he did not make a request, and whenever he made a request, he had to come forward without waiting for the answer because he knew the parents' answer. But now at last he sees a roundabout and it is running in full swing. Many men, women, and children were sitting in the roundabout and they were enjoying it, and he was carried away by the laughter the people were making. So he could not resist his desire. So he requested his parents boldly and he told them that I wanted to go on the roundabout, please, father, mother. There was no reply. He turned to look at his parents. They were not there ahead of him. He turned to look on either side. They were not there. He looked behind. There was no sign of them. He made a bold request. He wanted to enjoy the roundabout. So he made a bold request that I wanted it. By now, he had asked for the things but did not wait for the answer of the parents. But now, because he wanted it intently, so he wanted to ask the answer from the parents. So, when there was no reply, he turned to look for the parents. But they were not there. He looked on both the sides. He looked ahead of him. He looked on back of him. But there was no sign of them. It means the child was lost. The child was lost in the fear. A full deep cry rose within his dry throat, and within a sudden jerk of his body, he ran from where he stood, crying in a real fear. Mother, father, tears rolled down from his eyes, hot and fierce. His flushed face was convulsed with fear, panic stricken. He ran to one side first, then to the other, hither and thither in all directions, knowing not where to go. Mother, father, he wailed. His yellow turban came untied and his clothes became muddy. Now, when he found that he was not with his parents, it means he had lost his parents, or you can say he himself had lost his way on the fair. Now he started crying because he did not know anybody, he only knew his father and mother, and they were not with him in such a crowd. So he started crying. He started running here and there, and tears were coming from his eyes. He was afraid. He was very afraid, and he was running in all the directions to know about his father and mother. His turban came untied and his clothes became dirty. Having run to and fro in a large running for a while, he stood defeated, his cries supposed into sobs, as at little distances on the green grass he could see through the filmy eyes men and women talking. He tried to look intently among the patches of the bright yellow clothes, but there was no sign of his father and mother among these people who seemed to laugh and talk just for the sake of laughing and talking. Now, after running here and there, he got tired. He stood at one place, and where there were crowds of people, he wanted to search his parents from standing there only. He knew that his father and mother both were in yellow color clothes, so wherever he could see the people in yellow color, he looked intently so that he could find his parents. But sorry, he could not find even neither his father nor his mother. He ran quickly again, this time to a shrine, to which people seemed to be crowding. Every little inch of space there was congested with men, but he ran through people's legs, his little sob lingering. Mother, father, near the entrance to the temple, however, the crowd became very thick. Men jostled each other, heavy men with flashing, murderous eyes and hefty shoulders. The poor child struggled to thrust away between the feet, but knocked to and fro by the brutal movements, he might have been trampled underfoot had he not been shrieked at the highest pitch of his voice. Father, mother, a man in the surging crowd heard his cry and, stooping with great difficulty, lifted him up in his arms. Now, first, he had seen his parents everywhere. He had run in all the directions. When he could not find them, he stood up on one place and tried to search his parents. But then also, he could not find them. Again, he started running here and there and shouting for his father and mother. He was crying for his father and mother. There was a shrine there, and he ran towards the shrine. But on the entrance of the shrine, there was a great crowd. People were jostling each other. Jostling means dhakka mukki karna. They were trying to get into the temple first. So he could not get his way, but as he was a child, he went through the legs of other people and reached the entrance of the temple. And as he reached on the entrance of the temple, the crowd became very thick and it was not possible for him to go. He must have been trampled in the feet of the other people if one man has not picked him up. A man tried very hard and picked him up from the ground with great difficulty. How did you get there, child? Whose baby are you? The man asked as he steered clear of the mass. The child wept more bitterly than ever now and only cried, I want my mother, I want my father. Now, the man had taken him in his arms and came ahead of the crowd, and coming on the separate side in the clear of the mass, he asked the child, why are you crying and whose child are you? Where are your father and mother? But he could not answer anything. He only cried, I want my mother, I want my father. The man tried to soothe him by taking him to the roundabout. Will you have a ride on the horse? He gently asked as he approached the ring. The child's throat tore into thousand shrill sobs and only shouted, I want my mother, I want my father. Now he starts from the back because the last request he had made his parents was about the roundabout. So he was nearly the man. He wanted to soothe the child and he wanted that his mind to be diverted so that he can ask whose child he was. So the man took him to the roundabout and asked, if you want to ride a horse, if you want to sit on the roundabout. But the child now did not want to ride on the roundabout. He only cried, I want my mother, I want my father. The man headed towards the place where the snake charmer still played on the flute to the swaying cobra. Listen to that nice music, child, he pleaded. But the child shut his ears with his fingers and shouted his double pitched strain, I want my mother, I want my father. Now, when he did not sit on the roundabout, the man took him to the snake charmer, where the snake charmer was still playing the music and the cobra, the snake, was still dancing. And the man asked him, do you want to listen the music? Do you want to enjoy this music? The child now did not like this music. He put his hands on his ears and cried double pitched, I want my father, I want my mother. The man took him near the balloons, thinking the bright colors of the balloons would distract the child's attention and quieten him. Would you like a rainbow colored balloon? He persuasively asked. The child turned his eyes from the flying balloons and just sobbed, I want my mother, I want my father. Now the man takes him to the balloon seller and he thinks that the child will be attracted by the rainbow colors. So he asks, do you want a rainbow color balloon? But the child turns his head. Now he does not want the balloon. He only wants his father and his mother. The man, still trying to make the child happy, bore him to the gate where the flower seller said, look, can you smell those nice flowers, child? Would you like a garland to put round your neck? Now the man takes him to the place where the flower seller was there, where the garland seller was there, and asked the child if he wanted a garland. The child turned his nose away from the basket and retreated him. So, I want my mother, I want my father. Now the child even refuses, even does not look at the garland that he earlier wanted. Thinking to humor his disconsolate charge by a gift of sweets, the man took him to the counter of the sweet shop. What sweet would you like, child? He asked. The child turned his face from the sweet shop and only sobbed, I want my mother, I want my father. Now, lastly, the man takes him to the sweet shop where Barfi was also there, and Barfi was his favorite sweet. The man offers him to have any of the sweet, but the child turns his face and he only sobs. He only says, I want my mother, I want my father. So, the man, the child who earlier wanted all the things from his parents, although he knew that they will not buy him anything. But why did he want all these things then? Because he was happy. He was happy with his parents. So when he was happy, he wanted any of these things. But now he had lost. He was not with his parents, so nothing could make him happy other than his parents. That is why whatever was asked to him by the man to offer him, he refused each and everything, and he only wanted his father and mother. I hope the lesson is clear to you. Thank you.